Ladies and gentlemen, we have a great honor and the privilege to host Justice Joy Cunningham, Illinois Supreme Court Justice, who this March in the upcoming primaries will be fighting for re-election. Justice, thank you so much for making your way here and being our guest.
Thank you very much for having me. It's an honor.
You have an amazing story to tell, and a story that will resonate tremendously with our audience. Story of pretty humble beginnings, hard work, and a tremendous success. Where does your story begin, Justice?
My story begins in New York City. I am one of 5 children, and my family, I have 3 sisters and 1 brother. My brother has passed away now, but my family was a family of strong values and hard work. My father always said that it was important for us to not just pass through life, but do something on our way through so that we leave a legacy, a footprint, something that shows that we cared and that when we pass through. And so that's always stayed with me. And I am a justice of the Illinois Supreme Court, but my story begins long before that. I started my professional life as a registered nurse.
That's unusual for a lawyer.
Yes, it is. My undergraduate degree is actually in nursing. And that happened almost by happenstance. By that I mean, I had no particular plans to become a nurse, but I had very good grades when I went to college, and I was recruited into the nursing program. It was a new program, and I had an older sister who was a nurse, so it seemed like a good idea at the time.
It's a natural fit, right?
Yes.
I think being a nurse provides you with a unique perspective to work with people, see people really when they need help the most, when they're the most vulnerable. I bet that those experiences shape you and stay with you for a lifetime.
I was an intensive care nurse, so I worked with very, very sick patients, and learning how to take care of really sick people who are at the lowest point in their lives through no fault of their own. It taught me a lot of patience, it taught me empathy, and it taught me how to listen. And those are all good qualities that I think judges should have. It also taught me how to solve problems unexpectedly that you didn't know would crop up. It taught me how to talk to people who are having emotional problems because of their loved one being so sick, and how to help them just get through that period of time. And all of those are qualities that I have found in my career as a judge, both of the circuit court, as of the appellate court, and now the Supreme Court. Those are all qualities that I think every judge could use.
Let's talk about your legal career, your law school. Have you ever dreamed about becoming a lawyer? Was it something that came to you unexpectedly?
You know, it was more of an evolution. As I told you, I became a nurse when I went to college, and that was almost by happenstance because I was recruited into the program and it seemed like a good idea at the time. But over time, I began to feel that I would like to do something in the law, which meant I had to get a law degree. So it wasn't like a bright line aha moment. It was more of an evolution. And then I decided to go to law school, and I was already a nurse. So I actually worked my way through law school, working in the ICU at nights. And as I was mentioning, I did everything I could to get a premium on my salary because I didn't want to have a huge debt when I graduated from law school. So I worked 12-hour shifts every Friday and Saturday nights for 3.5 years. And working nights, you get a premium for working nights, you get a premium for working 12 hours, and I got a premium for working weekends, and it was every weekend. So I was able to earn enough money to live, because I lived as a law student, a very, very frugal budget, but it helped me to pay for my law school education as I went along and not have a very crushing debt when I graduated. So I was able to really get right into my career and start being a lawyer.
And you had to go through a lot. Those, I bet, Must have been the most difficult years of your life.
They were very difficult, and it seemed never ending. You know, when you're young, time goes very slowly, and when you're older, it flies by.
Yes,
So it seemed to me like it was never ending. But I always knew that at the end of all of that, there would be my goal of being a lawyer and being able to do good and do the things that lawyers do.
Wonderful. You obtained your doctorate degree here in Chicago.
Yes, I did.
When did the move happen from New York to Chicago, and was it love at first sight? Or?
No, I came to Chicago actually for a nursing job, and it wasn't planned for me to stay here. I didn't plan to stay indefinitely, but I had never lived outside New York, and it was more of an adventure for me. I didn't know anybody when I came here. I knew no one in Chicago. I met one woman that knew a friend back in New York who put me in touch with this person so that I would at least have somebody that knew me, but I didn't know a single person when I came here. And so I came for a job, and I was planning to only be here for a year. And after a year, they asked me to stay another year, and then I decided to go to law school. So then I stayed, and I've been here ever since, and this is my home.
Wonderful. We're so happy to have you here in the state. Justice, how did your legal career work? You used the term that it kind of snaked.
Yes.
It wasn't a straight line.
It definitely wasn't a straight line. I consider it to be a non-linear career, very zigzag. I started off as an assistant attorney general. I got a job in the attorney general's office where I was the first woman, the first person of color in the civil division of the Illinois attorney general's office. And I worked there for a short time, and then Justice Glenn Johnson, who was one of the first Black men to sit on the Illinois Appellate Court, recruited me to be his law clerk. Now, a law clerk is a lawyer, usually a young lawyer, who helps the justices with writing opinions, doing research, all of the things that a justice needs to do, but can't necessarily do all of that work themselves. And it is an extremely important position because if you are a law clerk, it opens doors for you later in your career as you leave your clerkship and go out into the legal world. And that's what it did for me. So I feel very grateful to Justice Johnson to give me that opportunity to be his law clerk. And after I was done with my clerkship, I joined the law firm again where I was the first person of color, first woman of color. It was a civil litigation boutique firm, so I actually learned how to be a lawyer and how to try cases there. And after I was recruited away from that firm to Loyola University to start an in-house litigation department for them, and I was very fortunate to have gotten that job. Again, I was the first person of color in that hierarchy at Loyola, and I did start an in-house legal department for litigation. And I did a lot of important things there, such as working with the university to establish a captive insurance company so that we could insure our own debts. And I was the lead counsel for Loyola University Medical Center. So I did all of their health care. And that was a very interesting and diverse job where I got to do very many things, and I had a good staff of lawyers who worked for me and with me. And after several years at Loyola, I became a circuit court judge, and that was another turn in my career, and it was really a wonderful experience. And I liked doing that as well. But I was recruited away from the circuit court after several years to join Northwestern Memorial Healthcare system as their senior vice president and general counsel. And
again, you were the first.
I was the first. I was the first woman of color in senior management at Northwestern, and it was a good opportunity for me, but it was also good for others who came after me. Because although I've had many firsts, I always say that what's really important is to make sure that I'm not the last and that I open doors for others. And I feel pretty proud of having done that.
What happened after your career at Northwestern?
After my career at Northwestern, I became an appellate court justice. It didn't happen so suddenly, but I actually made a conscious decision. I loved my job at Northwestern, but I had a young child, and I felt that the intensity of the job at Northwestern and taking me away from home so much, and I was an older mother, so I really wanted to spend time with my child. So I decided that I would use my talents and my credentials as a lawyer and as a prior judge in a way that could benefit society, be stimulating intellectually for me, and help me to earn a living at the same time. So I decided to, with the encouragement of friends, to run for the appellate court, and I won my seat. And there I sat for 16 years until the Supreme Court tapped me in 2022 to succeed Justice Burke when she retired from the Supreme Court.
This is one of the most inspiring stories, one of the most inspiring paths I have ever seen. I've heard a lot. That moment when you decided to leave Northwestern, that I think is the most crucial moment, because many people are caught in their careers. They tend to forget how important the family is, and then it's kind of too late. How important that was?
It was very important because I took a significant salary cut, significant, and I underscore that, significant.
It was a world-class corporation that you led.
Many times during the years at Northwestern, my bonus, all senior management people get bonus payments at the end of the year, depending on your performance.
Yeah.
My bonus was always bigger than my current judicial salary. So I took a significant salary cut, but as you say, my family is so important to me. My son, he's my only son, and he was young then, and I felt like I really don't want to miss out on the years of raising my son after having worked so hard to have them. I felt like it was very important for me to be there to watch him grow up.
It really shows the values that drive you, that lay the foundation for everything that you do. And again, I'm 100% certain that it resonates with the Polish Americans here who share exactly the same value system.
Well, Polish Americans are certainly reputed to be hardworking family people. So, yes.
You are also a trailblazer. When you graduated law school, it was 1982. Women in your position, with your background, had almost no chance of accomplishing what you managed to accomplish. Do you consider yourself a trailblazer? And are you mentoring women? Are you mentoring women of color right now?
Yes. Well, I didn't set out to be a trailblazer, but that's what happened because of hard work and the various opportunities that I've had. And mentoring is an integral part of my life, but not just women of color. I mentor women.
Period.
Women, period. Because when I was a young lawyer, there were very few women who are of the stature that I am now, up the food chain that I could go to for mentoring. So now that I am here, younger women who are the next generation of leaders and judges and so on, for me, it's a passion. So I have, at any given time, I will have 3 or 4 young women that I am actively mentoring.
You're also a volunteer, lifelong volunteer.
That is very true.
Please share some stories about your volunteer.
When I was a nurse, I volunteered for Planned Parenthood. People think of Planned Parenthood as a place that only does abortion, but it's not. It's a healthcare organization that provides healthcare for women, young women who are in college, who can't afford mammograms, can't afford pap smears, those kinds of things. And so I had been the beneficiary of the healthcare. So once I got my nursing degree, I was a volunteer for Planned Parenthood. I also volunteer for, there's a program called Chicago Legal Aid to Incarcerated Women. These are women who have been charged with petty crimes, but they have no money, so they couldn't get bail. I was part of an organization that would collect clothes for them. I was a young lawyer at that time. I would go to the jail and talk with them about helping them understand what the judge is saying when they go to court the next day, putting them in touch with services that could help them and keep them out of coming back again. And I was also I was a member of the James R. Jordan Foundation for many years. And what that foundation does, we adopt schools in underserved areas, and we get volunteers. We do reading programs in the school. We help to send the kids to experiences that they would not otherwise be able to have, like space camp. That's a wonderful opportunity for a kid. And so that's part of my passion. I think it's important to volunteer and give back because I feel very lucky.
Yeah, that's tremendous legacy. Let's talk about the elections. You went through a lot of those already, and you have a wonderful track record. You've won general elections, and you also won acceptance of your peers because to get some positions you had to be elected by your peers.
That's very true. I was the presiding judge of my division in the appellate court on several occasions. I'm elected by the other justices for that position. And so that's excellent.
That speaks a lot about your professionalism from their perspective.
I would say so.
Yes.
And it makes me feel good.
Justice, why these upcoming primaries are so important, especially here in Cook County in the state of Illinois.
The primary is really the election.
And I want you
when I
to
say
understand.
the primary is the election, because Cook County is pretty much a Democratic area of the state.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you win the Democratic primary in Cook County, the likelihood of having a significant Republican challenger in the November election is very remote, and most of the time there is no challenger. So for the judicial races, winning the primary is the most important. If voters wait until November to go to the polls, it's too late. The votes are needed in the primary. That's when you get to select who sits on your courts. And state courts have become so much more important than they used to be because of what's happening in the federal court system and on the U.S. Supreme Court. Many things are being sent back to the states that previously were heard in federal court. So who sits on your state Supreme Court is also just so much more significant than it used to be.
What is the nature of your work as a Supreme Court justice?
Being a Supreme Court justice is very complex, is the word that comes to mind. People think of it as deciding cases, and that's a part of what we do. But the Supreme Court is responsible for the entire court system throughout the state of Illinois. Illinois has 102 counties, and there's a courthouse in every single one of them. And we are responsible for overseeing all of the courthouses. We're also responsible for overseeing the pretrial services throughout the state. The public defenders, an arm of the public defenders, come under the Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
We're responsible for the bar exam. We're responsible for the Committee on Character and Fitness and licensing. Every attorney that's licensed in Illinois comes under the Supreme Court. So it has a great deal of administrative work, and there are several commissions and committees that are under the supervision of the Supreme Court that we also are responsible for. And there are only 7 Supreme Court justices, so it's a great deal of work. We do have an administrative arm called the Administrative Office of the Illinois Courts that reports to the Supreme Court, and they do a lot of the administrative work that the court is required by the Constitution to undertake. So it's a big job.
The Constitution regulates so much of what
Absolutely.
You're in session, what, 5
We're
times
in
a year?
session 5 times a year, and it's written right into the Constitution when those times are. It's January, March, May, September, and November. And it's the second 2 weeks of each of those months And when we're in term, it's called being in term. When we're in term, it's in Springfield, usually. Occasionally, we do what's called riding the circuit. So we'll bring the court out into the community, and we're doing such a circuit riding in March. In a couple of weeks, we're going to Northern Illinois University School of Law, and we're going to hear 2 cases there.
But honestly, it's a year-long job.
Absolutely.
Hard work that those 7 justices.
Absolutely. And how cases get to the Supreme Court is maybe of interest to your readers as well, because there are 3 levels of the court system. The trial court, which most people are familiar with, that's where you go if you have a traffic ticket, or you're getting divorced, or you're getting an adoption. It's the trial court level. When something happens, when a case is heard at the trial court, if one of the parties is unhappy with the outcome, they have an absolute right to an appeal. And that court that they will appeal to is called the appellate court. And the appellate court must take every appeal that comes to it. Above the appellate court is the Supreme Court. That's where I sit. The Supreme Court is a discretionary court, except in certain very narrow circumstances. That means we get to decide which cases we hear. And we mainly take cases of important constitutional significance, such as the assault weapons ban that was just heard, and the Safety Act, which abolished cash bail in Illinois, and the Biometric Information Privacy Act cases that regulate how people can collect or not collect biometric information from the public. Those are very important policy decisions that the Supreme Court naturally takes.
Those cases pretty much outline the biggest problems that our state is facing, and your decisions will, in sort of a way, determine where our state will be in 5, 10 years.
Absolutely. I often say to audiences when I'm speaking to them that who sits on your state Supreme Court is so much more important than who your state senator is, who your state representative is, because the Supreme Court is making decisions that impact your lives every single day in ways that are very readily obvious. And so what I'm doing in running to keep my seat is very, very important. And I think viewers should have a really good understanding of how important all of these judicial races are, because judges impact your lives in ways that you cannot imagine. And the unfortunate thing is, many people, when they go to the ballot box, they don't pay attention to the judges who are usually at the bottom of the ballot. You're near the end. So sometimes the voters don't even get to that part. And I encourage them to do that. I encourage you to absolutely make sure you go to the bottom of the ballot and look at who the candidates are for judicial office and vote for them. I will tell you something else. This season, the Cook County Democratic Party has done a spectacular job of fielding a slate of candidates who are highly qualified. Every single one of them. I feel very proud to be at the head of that ticket of qualified judicial candidates and judges. So every single one of them is worth your vote.
And you have gotten that endorsement, that place on that slate, but
yes,
a number of other organizations endorsed you.
Yes, I have upwards of 30 labor organizations that's endorsed me. I also have the endorsement of many public officials, such as Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, Congresswoman Robin Kelly, Congressman Mike Quigley, Congressman Jonathan Jackson, Congressman Danny Davis, Tony Preckwinkle, and many others.
That is an impressive list. I went through that list on your campaign website, and the list was going on and on and on. And again, it's a testament to all your accomplishments from so many different perspectives. Justice, quick word of advice to our listeners, what they should be looking for in their judges. In your opinion, what are the most important qualities of judges and justices?
I think the three most important qualities in my mind for a judge: someone who certainly is intellectually able to do the job, someone who has empathy and understanding of the human condition, because on the other side of every case is a human being, and it's important for judges to recognize that. And I think that the third thing that I would say, the judge really should have the ability to listen and hear both sides.
Then we have a person here with us who has all those qualities. And I could add to that experience at all three levels of judiciary system. Person who loves family more than anything else in the world, person who overcame so many adversities, really hardworking person who we all aspire to emulate. Justice, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to your listeners for listening and hopefully learning about our court system.
This is wonderful. Justice Joy Cunningham, current Illinois Supreme Court Justice and a candidate in the upcoming primaries. I want to end, ladies and gentlemen, with an appeal. Go out and vote. Go out and support the best candidates. And I'm so happy to have one of them here with us today. Thank you, Justice.
Thank you very much for having me, and thank you to your listeners.